Good morning, hi there, welcome to today's episode of The Breakfast Club. I'm Kritsween Walia. Today we're going to be saluting the end of an era in Indian aviation, the legendary MiG-21, which is finally soaring into retirement after over 6 long decades of service. We'll dive into its incredible legacy, the controversies, what its exit means for the Indian Air Force moving forward. And then we shift our focus from the skies to the stage. We're turning up the volume with none other than Ganesh Murli Iyer. His phenomenal Indian percussionist just rocked the global stage alongside Ed Sheeran, blending Carnatic beats with Western pop like never before. That's going to be our person of interest this morning. First up, let's take a quick check of the top headlines we're tracking for you. The whole nation bids farewell to the flying legend. India says goodbye to its oldest jet. It is truly an end of the runway for the MiG-21. 6 decades of service comes to an end. Our experts this morning from the Indian Air Force will be decoding that all-important story, and will also take you through some personal instances of what MiG-21 meant to them. And the Indian beat behind Ed Sheeran joins us live on the Breakfast Club. As you see on your screens, this is the Mumbai percussionist who has contributed in a significant way to one of Ed Sheeran's albums. The sound of Gatam has now gone international. To talk about that story, Ganesh will be joining us in just a bit. And then we bring to you this week's entertainment buzz, all of the controversies, the headlines from Bollywood, Hollywood. Shosha Stitas joins you with the lowdown. And finally, thank God it is Friday. What to watch, where to go, your perfect weekend itinerary in just a bit. Well, it is the end of an era for the Indian Air Force. After more than 6 decades in service, the MiG-21 is taking its final flight. For many, it was the first true symbol of India's air power, a supersonic jet that changed the way the Indian Air Force fought wars, fought conflicts. It brought down Pakistan's sabers in 1971, and the contribution has only gone up. It's only been one after the other for the MiGs in India. Held its own in Kargil, even humbled a Pakistani F-16 in 2019. Yes, we're talking about Balakot here. At the same time, it carried the burden of frequent crashes and earned the painful tag of a flying coffin. Pride and pain, glory and controversy all rolled into one aircraft. As the MiG-21 bows out, we look at the jet that was once the backbone of India's air defense, and also ask this morning what its exit means for the future of the Indian Air Force. Let's get you more in this special report. First up, on the journey that MiG-21's had in India. Take a look.
MiG-21, the sentinel of our skies. For 60 years, it has guarded the nation, training our warriors, testing their courage, and triumphing in battle. A machine of steel, flown with unmatched spirit. The Chief of the Air Staff, joined by Squadron Leader Priya, honors this legacy with a commemorative sortie. Swift, fearless, enduring. Every mission, every landing. A chapter of courage written into history. A legend bows out, saluted by generations. The MiG-21 departs, but its legacy will always remain.
All right, we're being joined by two voices this morning. Both the men know MiG-21's better than most. First up, I do want to go across to Air Marshal Anil Chopra, who led the MiG-21 upgrade project in Russia. Good morning, Air Marshal Chopra. Thank you for taking out the time. It's an interesting time. We're looking at so many conversations really taking place around the MiG-21s. There's so much that's going to unfold essentially in Chandigarh going forward. But having led this project in Russia, let's take you back all the way. Tell us about that phase in your life. Tell us about your association with this project, and then we'll take this conversation forward.
You know, MiG-21 is now, the first flew in 1955. And there are only two countries in the world which upgraded the MiG-21 yet another time, and that was, Indian Air Force and Romania. There were only two countries which upgraded the MiG-21. And I must tell you, the country that has taken the maximum juice out of any of the MiG-21 fleet is India. You know, we have not only manufactured the aircraft in India, nearly 1,200 of them were finally operated, including the ones which we had imported from Russia. But this upgrade was extremely significant. You know, it had got a modern radar which will have look up and look down capabilities. It got BVR missiles. It got TV-guided weapons. So the upgrade was significant, and I must tell you, the upgraded aircraft were in India by 2000, and between 2000 and 2025, 25 years, has been a great stretch that we have been able to, do with the MiG-21. And as it retires, now we are the last major air force which has been operating the MiG-21. And I can recall with the nostalgia that all of us young pilots in 1970s have groomed our combat skills on this aircraft. Extremely beautiful design. In the 1950s, it could do Mach 2 plus. It could fly at 67 to 70,000 feet. It had extremely good rate of climb, simple design, easy to maintain, agile, and extremely combat worthy. So I think any amount of adjectives you can give in praise of the MiG-21.
And I do want to touch upon that. You said something very beautifully, Air Marshal Chopra, which is how capable MiG-21 has been. But many say it's also been as demanding. So I'll come back to you on that. We'll talk about that aspect. But MiG-21s have also had a different kind of history, especially in the last decade or so, has been labeled as the flying coffin, etc. Let's talk about its legacy. In your view, what are the contributions it's made to the Indian military aviation? Historically speaking, so many wars that MiG-21s has participated in, as late as Balakot, and we're seeing the contribution being hailed by the Indian Armed Forces today. Which one of these contributions was your favorite?
You know, firstly, let me tell you that it is very unfortunate, that the MiG-21 was sometimes being referred to as a flying coffin, which it was not. You must understand that at one point, Indian Air Force had 21 squadrons of MiG-21. That means 50% plus of Indian Air Force was MiG-21s. So, of course, in a military flying, there will be some accidents. And since the larger number of fleet and aircraft were MiG-21s, and every time a MiG-21 crashed, somebody would say that's an old aircraft. But honestly, I must tell you, when the last of the MiG-21s flies here in Chandigarh, every aeroplane that will be flying will be 100% safe. You don't clear an aircraft to fly. So outstanding performance by this fleet, and unfortunate that some people continue to call it a flying coffin, which we in the Air Force just do not agree. And mind you, the neck on the chopping block is ours. The risk is being taken by our pilots, and nobody is being forced to fly an unserviceable aircraft or something like that. So that is one. Second is about the performance. And I must tell you, we inducted the aircraft in 1963. The first war was in 1965 with Pakistan, but the aircraft was still under operationalization. And so a limited use was made in 1965. But in 1971, outstanding performance. We were pitted in the western sector with the F-104, which was a much better aircraft than the MiG-21. And of course, there was Sabre F-86. And in every combat, the MiG-21 outclassed the F-104. In fact, 4 F-104 was shot down by MiG-21, acknowledged by the Americans, and every analyst in the world has clearly declared MiG-21 as a victor, not only against F-104, against F-105 and many other aircraft that came thereafter.
Air Marshal Chopra, so much is going to happen the next few hours, and you gave us a glimpse into what the momentous event on Chandigarh is going to look like. Tell us a little bit about the emotions that are then running in the Indian Armed Forces officers, the Air Force officers. How emotional is it for some of these generations of Indian fighter pilots? Tell us a little bit about the mood in Chandigarh.
You know, for last 15 days, there have been WhatsApp groups specially created for the Chandigarh event, and there are some WhatsApp groups which are free for all, where everybody is allowed to say whatever you want to. Of course, there are some administrated groups which are telling you how to come and where to come and etc. But what's going on those free for all, groups is very, very interesting, very, very educating. People are getting statistics, facts, figures, photographs of their own times, of the ladies, how they were climbing up the aircraft, the children. It's a festive mood. You know, we are so excited. The build-up has been so good, and I can see around 2,000 people are expected. Not only pilots, engineers, even air traffic controllers, the radars controllers who had worked very, very closely with the MiG-21 fleet. So there is going to be action, and whether it's the airport, the railway station, the bus stand, the hotels, everywhere there is the MiG-21 buzz, if I may use that word, in Chandigarh. And right now we are all getting ready to go for the first ice-breaking party, which will take place this evening, where we all get to share our nostalgic, feelings. Another thing has been, a chart has been made by a lot of research being done by one historian. Anchit Gupta is a civilian, but he's a military child. And he has, so there's a scoreboard on which who has flown the highest. Now, there is one Commodore SS Tyagi who has flown over 6,000 sorties and more than 4,000 hours, which is a world record, which has been already acknowledged by the Russians and the rest of the world.
All stories are going to be shared in these get-togethers that take place. All the fighter pilots who've had the chance to fly the MiG-21s are going to be talking about their own stories. And I must then ask you, Air Marshal Chopra, tell us about a memorable story involving MiG-21, a close call, a proud moment, could be anything involving you or any of your colleagues that is on top of your mind as we speak right now.
Yeah, see, in aviation, lots of close calls. We have not only had close calls, we have people who have flown into the ground, they're flying ultra low level, in the desert, in the dark night. It's not easy to, fly when you have no visual signs in the desert in dark night, or to be able to fly over the sea, though the MiG-21 being a single-engine aircraft doesn't go very deep into the sea. So there have been, very, very many events. I can tell you that in my own batch, at least I know 5 pilots who lost their lives over the period of 40 years, having been in the MiG-21. So there are a lot of things, but the quantum of flying that has been done, in the MiG-21 fleet is humongous, phenomenal, nearly 2 million hours of flying, or maybe more. The exact figures will come out. But this is the kind of flying the fleet has done, and a fleet which has, everybody who has flown this aircraft loves this aircraft. Simple aircraft, so simple to fly. One American said recently, he said it's like having a car in your garage, just seeing that the oil and fuel are there, and thereafter, putting the key and starting it and going. That was the way MiG-20 was so simple to fly. It was like taking out a car from your garage. So MiG-21 has had some, it's going to have it is already having a big fan club, but I think after Indian Air Force retires them, they're going to be a huge fan club, and these stories will keep on emerging, for years to come.
Thank you, Air Marshal Chopra, for breaking down that story for us, for sharing some of those personal experiences of yours. We'll reconnect with you very shortly. I do want to go across to, on that note, to Group Captain Augustine Vinod, veteran MiG-21 pilot and aviation expert who's joining us this morning on the Breakfast Club. Our second big voice to really talk about his own experience. Good morning, Group Captain Vinod. Do you agree to what Air Marshal Chopra just said, that there's a huge fan club of MiG-21? Are you also part of that fan club? Tell us about your flying experience. Air Marshal Chopra, in as many words, said that it's the easiest to fly. It's literally like taking out your car from the garage. Is it that easy? Because there are experts who've come in to say that it is an iconic fighter jet, yes, but it's also very demanding at the same time.
So to answer to your first question, am I part of the fan club, and how much do I love that aeroplane? I think a picture speaks 1,000 words. So when I retired, and I was so much in awe, struck, and in love with this aeroplane that I got myself a MiG-21,
Wow.
tattoo on my hand.
Okay,
See,
we
you
don't need an answer from you then.
The only tattoo I have is a MiG-21 tattoo on my hand. So, when I got married to my wife, she was also in the Air Force. So we got married in a mandir and came home. I told her, Varsha, you'll all forever remain my second love. Because to me, my first love is MiG-21, and she till date holds me to it and keeps telling me, I am your father's second love to my children. So much is my admiration and love for that aeroplane, for exactly what Air Marshal said. And incidentally, Air Marshal's last flight on a MiG-21 was with me. I mean, I was the 2IC of a unit, and his last flight on a MiG-21 was with me. So that honor goes to me. We flew in a place called Udhampur in Jammu and Kashmir, and the question that you asked him that day when we landed is one of my boys in my squadron. Unluckily, he flew into a hill, and immediately after that, Air Marshal and I got onto an helicopter, went looking for the wreckage, and by evening we found it, and found my perished colleague as well. So those kind of memories are, forever etched. I lost a friend of mine, many, but I lost a very close friend of mine, and my mind sort of, isolated the fact that I lost him. And when we were getting married, when we were making the list for calling people, I jotted his name down. And my wife looked at me, that time wife to be, she looked at me and said, Sandeep is no more Garcia, why have you put his name? So my mind just kind of, isolated or removed that fact that I lost him. So those kind of memories also comes flooding back. That question which you asked Air Marshal.
So, Captain Vinod, but what is this feeling? What is this attachment to this one machine that despite all the odds, despite having lost your closest friends, despite having had bits and pieces of arguments with your wife over the MiG-21 actually being your first love, what is it that this machine brings to the table, brings to your life, that has made it so very special for you? It's a personal question, but what is it?
So, two, three things which, I keep saying this. I flew jets all my life. So, I started off training on a jet called Kiran, but it flew very slow. And from there, it was a quantum leap for a teenager or just out of teen onto a MiG-21 fighter, which was going to fly at, twice the speed of sound. Some of the legends flew those aeroplanes, and I was sitting in it. So that itself is, kind of overwhelming experience to start with. And that was my first day. And those days we flew very few missions in a twin cockpit fighter, and suddenly on the 13th flight, I was flying alone and piercing the sky at some breakneck speed. It was so overwhelming. in the initial part of my life. And thereafter, there was a version called MiG-21, it was Type 75, which converted to Bison, which is retiring today. Type 75, if you went to Type 75, you could go to um, those days the advanced fighter, even today, the Mirage 2000 and a MiG-21. So I went to Mirage 2000 thanks to the stepping stone of MiG-21. And then I commanded this unit. And I thank God that I commanded a MiG-21 squadron because, like Marshall said, it is, it's a pilot's aeroplane. There is no level of mastery you could reach. It is like playing a violin. You ask any pianist, violinist, or celloist, he will say there is so much more to learn because learning in MiG-21 never ends. It never ended till my last mission. I was only learning this particular aeroplane to fly.
Only a fighter pilot, group captain, can compare a MiG-21. I mean, the look of it is so intimidating for a person like me. Compare it to a violin. So I do understand the sentiment there. But Group Captain Vinod, can I then also ask you, you spoke of how this is a fighter pilot's plane. For generations to come, the ones that are not going to be able to train with MiG-21, what do they stand to lose is what I want to ask you. Because 63 years is a long time. Up until now, every pilot inducted into the Indian Armed Forces has some time or the other perhaps had the chance to fly this machine. And now that story is going to change. How do you look at that?
The feeling, that you get, that was the third aspect I was going to say, is when you sit in the cockpit and strap up, it is like strapping on to head of a arrowhead. You're part of the aeroplane. It is so small that you feel it is part of your body. And the control column and the thrust lever becomes extension of your limbs. That feeling, I don't know whether I never got that on a Mirage 2000. Mirage 2000 was more of a technological machine. It had a very good autopilot. So most of the routine flying, you did it on autopilot on a Mirage 2000 and on Rafale or any modern fighter. Except the combat portion, everything else, the automation does it. Here, the only automation was we call it the eyeball Mark II. So 2 pieces of your eyeball, seat of the pants, and continuously holding the control column and this thrust lever, which was extension of your limbs. So it's a feeling that I think ended with our era. I do not think any of the fighters that is there in the Air Force today has that kind of, will give anyone that kind of feeling. But then I keep saying this, the old leaves have to fall for the new leaves to come so that the tree thrives, and the tree in this case is Indian Air Force. So the tree needs to thrive, the old leaves like the MiG-21 and I and the Air Marshal need to fall off, retire, go away, so that new leaves come, the new boys take this tree forward, grow this tree into some formidable, towering presence across both northern and the western neighbors.
So which machine are your hopes pinned on? Quickly, we're wrapping up this conversation, but I want that one word. Is it Rafales? Is it Tejas? What is it? Or more?
It's AMCA. My complete money is on AMCA. Okay. AMCA is going to be a very good, I've talked about it many times earlier. AMCA is going to be a very good machine. Probably one of the breakfast show when AMCA comes out. I'm sure I'll be here talking about AMCA to you in 4 to 5 years or 10 years down the road.
Okay, lovely. We'd be happy to connect, and we'd be happy to actually be talking about that story in present, not in future. Thank you so much, Group Captain Vinod. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for sharing all those very interesting stories so very close to your heart. With that, it's time for us to head into a very quick break. On the other side, we shift our focus to how Indian beats have also made global headlines, and all this behind Ed Sheeran's album Play. We'll take you through the Mumbai percussionist, how his contributions to the global album have really created a storm in itself. We'll be right back.